on. So we're saying not only is it bad that you have the opinion, but you have a bad opinion and you're black. It's like, wait, why are we shitting on them for being black and having a bad opinion? Just shitting on them, just shit on them for having a bad opinion.
Yes, that is what I was saying earlier when I was talking about Uncle Tom. Like, you don't have to put them in your little box and say, oh, you're black, so you should agree with my politics. And if you don't agree with my politics, then you're one of the bad ones. So I'm going to call you an Uncle Tom now. I need you to fit into the stereotype that I want you to fit into. And that stereotype is voting for Democrats. But when you don't vote for Democrats, now you're the bad one. Now you're the bad black. And now I call you an Uncle Tom to make sure that you understand that I think you're a slave and you're sucking up to the master. So I listened to this debate today. I heard them talking about how it's okay to call Candace Owens an Uncle Tom. So I posted, and this isn't the first time I've heard leftists argue many times that it's okay to call black people who vote for Republicans Uncle Toms because they are contributing to white supremacy. And that's what an Uncle Tom is. It's somebody who contributes to white supremacy. It's like, well, if you guys actually cared about the etymology of a word, if you actually cared about the history of a word, you would know that the word Uncle Tom has been fairly oppressive for black people. It's been a way to act as though black people who tried to fit into white culture, black people who spoke with proper English, black people who got good grades at school, black people who wanted to go to college, black people who had jobs where their bosses were white, black people who did anything that was considered integration or helping white people. These people were called Uncle Toms. And the reason that they were called Uncle Toms is to say, you're not really black. You're not one of us. Okay? If you're going to go to school and you're going to go get good grades, then you're not one of us. Because that's not our thing. So yeah, so yes, I have an uncle named Tom. Audio freak. Who cares about the history of a word? Shaking my head. I mean, really, the history of the word by itself doesn't mean anything. It's not. It's not. It's not important by itself. My point is to point out the hypocrisy from leftists where they seem to care about the history of a word when they realize, oh, that word doesn't mean what I want it to anymore. So we have to go back to its history in order to find a time at some point when it meant something that is close enough to what I want it to mean today. But when it comes to Uncle Tom, no. They don't seem to care so much. So it says Candace Owens is more so fighting white supremacy by being an anomaly to white leftist standards than she is contributing to it. So they'll say oh, we can call Candace Owens because she contributes to white supremacy, right? But I'm saying, well, actually, you putting her into this box, you giving her this assignment that, okay, you are black, therefore you have to vote for this political party. You are not allowed to have variety. You are not allowed to have your own mind. You're not allowed to have your own ideology. You're not allowed to think for yourself. You are black, so you have to vote the way that we want you to vote. That is some freaking form of white supremacy if I ever heard of one. Okay? Candace Owens actually calls the Democratic Party the plantation for this reason, because they act as though they are black people's slave owners, and then they say, oh, you are black, so you have to vote for us. You don't have a choice. You just have to. Who is saying this, Tom?
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Who's saying what? Did you not literally just hear the debate we were listening to? Anyways, so yeah, so that was pretty much my point. This isn't vague posting. If I say Candace Owens is more so fighting white supremacy by being an anomaly to the white leftist standards than she is contributing to it, that's not vague posting. That's fairly clear. Below end theory, so can you explain? So I said more than the tweet already explained. Sure, there are stereotypes leftists want black people to fit, and if they don't, they'll be called Uncle Toms. White people are allowed to have different interests and ideologies, and apparently black people can't. So Sass said, Tom, WTF, so leftists can't criticize black right-wingers for their bad right-wing takes. Okay, so here's where we're about to get into some freaking. And it's not just Sass, but like, oh my goodness, dude. This is about to this is gonna trigger me so bad. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do this now. I'm about to get freaking PTSD. She said, Tom, WTF, so leftists can't criticize black right-wingers for their bad right-wing takes. Okay? Let's go back. So I said, there are stereotypes leftists want black people to fit, and if they don't, they'll be called Uncle Toms. White people are allowed to have different interests and ideologies, and apparently black people can't. Now, let's play a game. We're going to play a game real quick, guys. Everybody ready? Get ready, okay? Get focused, all right? So, I want to know where in there it says, so leftists can't criticize black right-wingers for their bad right-wing takes. All right? Ready, set. We're not going to say go. It doesn't exist. It's not there. Nothing anywhere close to that. Nowhere in here am I saying, hey, don't criticize black people. Don't criticize right-wingers. Don't criticize people for their bad takes. And I definitely did not combine all of those together. So leftists can't criticize black right-wingers for their bad right-wing takes. Or call out Candace Owens when she says black people are brainwashed by the Democratic Party. I'm going to replay Tom saying capitalism bad 100 times after this to make up for this slander stream. I'm literally reading your words. See, whew. Oh, woman. Slander is when you take what somebody else says and change it completely to something else and then pretend as though they said that thing. That would be slanderous. If you want to talk about slander, okay? I'm literally just reading off what you actually said. That's all I'm doing, and you're getting upset about it, right? You're getting upset about what you actually said, while I'm getting upset about things that I didn't actually say that you're saying that I said. You understand, like okay, we got it. All right. So then she said, stop acting like leftists. Throw out the term Uncle Tom all the time. You're being silly. Now, I mean, I didn't say in here anywhere like all white leftists or all the time or anything like that, right? Like, These things don't exist in there. Those words cannot be found. I don't see them. But that is the way that leftists translate words, unfortunately. Anyways, because you were vague. Oh, you were vague, so let me just assume something. Let me just assume something instead of asking for some sort of clarity. I don't think it was vague. I think it was actually very clear. I think it was very clear what it was that I was saying. I don't think I could have been more specific in the way that I explained this. This was as specific as I could possibly be. But if somebody is confused and they think, wow, Tom's being vague, I don't think the first thing they do is, you know what, I'm going to make something up and just say that's what he's saying and then argue against that. That's probably not the best course of action. So I said, you're doing it again. I didn't say anything about people not being able to criticize her for her bad takes, and I'm not talking about all leftists. Thank you. Please straw man again later. She said, Tom, white leftists are criticizing her for the bad takes, not because they think all black people should think a certain way. And you're just going to ignore that? A lot of black people vote Democrat, eh? And who also call out Candace? What the? I don't know what any of that. What was this about? And you're just going to ignore that a lot of black people vote Dem, eh? And who also call out Candace. This is like, it's so irrelevant to anything that we're talking about. But because I didn't mention it, apparently I'm ignoring it. Somebody else could have jumped on here and been like, so Tom, you're just going to ignore that 9/11 was almost 3 months ago. You're just going to ignore that fact, huh? Wow, Tom. Shows where your priorities are. Like what? Anything that I didn't mention here is something that I'm ignoring all of a sudden, I suppose. I'm not sure. I don't know what... Anyways, stop acting like leftists. Throw out the term Uncle Tom all the time. You're being silly. Sassafras and tomfoolery, I love the fact that you two fight like cats and dogs, but still get along just fine and can still foster a beautiful working relationship. Well, it is because I am a very forgiving person. And I like that I am so forgiving and so reasonable as well. I also like that, Sonia. So thank you. So gracious of you, Tom. You're welcome. She works it off. So then I said, oh wait, I think I skipped one. Nope. Okay. Said, I'm specifically talking about white leftists being racist right now. If you'd like to have a different conversation about black people, we can do that another time. She said, okay, but you can't just say white leftists being racist and not bring receipts. If you're going to state it as a fact, then show the class how you got there. Boblova said, this is Twitter, not a classroom. Kappa. So I replied to Boblova and said, Sass is having a mental breakdown. Just leave her be. She can think we're in a classroom having a completely different conversation, so she can be defensive about nothing if she wants to. She said, really, Tom? You're going with the woman be crazy? And I was making a joke. Have you never heard anyone say that before? And if you're going to jab at leftists, I'm going to respond. Now, I understood that, like, you know, the show the class thing was a joke, so I responded with a joke. And then she got mad at me as though I didn't understand there was a joke, but she didn't understand it was a joke. So let's just keep that in mind, okay? Let's not forget that fact. It was not a joke? What do you mean it was not a joke? Sass is having a mental breakdown. Okay, so I think you're having a mental breakdown. I don't like DM you or like check on you. I post about it on Twitter. Apparently that's a thing I do. Then I say, just leave her be. She can think we're in a classroom. So I think that you think we're actually in a classroom, right? It's not a joke. I actually think that you're in a classroom, right? Or that you think you're in a classroom, that you're like having delusions and that you actually think you're in a classroom. Having a completely different conversation so she can be defensive about nothing if she wants to, right? This was not a joke. I thought that she was really having this delusion, apparently. I just found this out. So, all right, here we go. So, Loti said, Tom, that's dumb. People don't act like Candace because she's a grifter and a liar. Black people can have a huge variety of positions. Now, all right. People don't like Candace because she's a grifter and a liar. Why are we talking about why people like Candace? Does anybody want to play the game again? Should we play the game again and see where I talk about why people do or don't like Candace? Anybody want to play the game? Any hands? Sass thinks she's in a classroom, so I gotta ask people to raise their hand. No hands? Okay. Yes? Juan Pablo. Let's hear it. Okay. Juan Pablo doesn't actually want to play the game. All right. So, yeah. So, Low End Theory had said, Tom, that's dumb. I don't know what it is he thinks is dumb because he doesn't respond to anything that I say after this. So he said, people don't like Candace because she's a grifter and a liar. Black people can have a huge variety of positions. So I also believe that black people can have a huge variety of positions. That's awesome that we agree on that. Not relevant to what it is we're talking about, but I'm glad that he shared that bit of information. It is very enlightening that black people can have a huge variety of positions. Cool. Also, people don't like Candace Owens because she's a grifter and a liar. Interesting. Not relevant, but you know what? Some people can have conversations with themselves on Twitter, and that is perfectly valid. That is also valid. I hope he feels validated. So valid. All right. So I said, did you see me talking about why people don't like Candace? Because he said people don't like Candace. That's not a thing we were talking about. So yeah. So did you see me talking about why people don't like Candace? You may have stumbled onto the wrong Twitter thread, LOL. I was talking about how people stereotype black people and call them Uncle Toms when they don't fit their mold. Their dislike is irrelevant to this conversation. Then I went on to say, I don't like Candace. I don't use that as an excuse to be racist, though. So Low T said, you think calling someone an Uncle Tom is racist? Oh boy, here we go. Here we go. Let's go. Everybody get hyped. We getting hyped. Let's do it. We're denying racism. We're being racist. Everybody come look how racist I am. Hey everyone! Come and see how good I look! Imagine not being clear in a tweet, and when people try to understand, you make fun of them for it. Well, people trying to understand, if by that you mean them assuming I mean something that I didn't say and then arguing against it as though I did say it instead of asking questions if they're confused, then sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But again, I don't think that I could have been more clear. I don't think that I could have, I don't think I could have said it I think I said it in the most clearest way ever. You weren't clear, own it, Tom. Nope, I was clear. Crystal clear. Kind of boils down to the people being talked about being like, most black people want the thing that I want, so I'll say support black people, and then getting irrationally angry when it isn't all of them. True. Haha, Tom, you were clear. Sass is reaching. Look, I know that if I mention the word leftist, I already know Sass is going to get defensive. I'm already aware of this. But with that said, I had hoped that if I'm only calling out the racist leftists, she wouldn't get defensive, right? If I'm all of a sudden, if I'm out like running outside and I'm like, yo, all you freaking pedophiles, I can't stand you guys because you're all leftists. I don't expect Sass to come running over and be like, there's nothing wrong with pedophiles. Stop it. I think that there's probably a line that she draws. I had hoped it was at racism, but you know, you never know a leftist. Sad reality. Just kidding. Just kidding. All right, no more picking on Sass. Sass, stop being a freaking crazy woman in the chat. Okay. So yeah. So I said, did you see me talking about did you see me talking about why people don't like Candace? You may have stumbled onto the wrong Twitter thread. LOL, I was talking about how people stereotype black people and call them Uncle Toms when they don't fit their mold. Their dislike is relevant to this conversation. Also, I don't like Candace. I don't use that as an excuse to be racist. He said, you think calling someone Uncle Tom is racist? So I said, you should do some reading on the history of race. But don't be these other nuts who think history is all that matters. I saw you say the other day that white isn't a race, like you live in the 16th century. We're in the 21st, homie. Concepts evolve. We don't live in the past. Now, when I say we, I'm making a huge leap there to assume that he's not a crazy leftist. I have been told many times that I can be too charitable to people. It's a curse. I'm told that I'm too nice to people, that I'm too giving, that I am too loving. These are faults that I'm trying to fix. So I said, you should do some reading on the history of race, but don't be these other nuts who think history is all that matters. Right? What does he respond to? History does matter! Let's do this again. You should do some reading on the history of race. Moi? The guy? The one who said that history doesn't matter? Also thinks that people should do history reading no. This can't be right. I don't see where it says history doesn't matter. Did somebody edit the tweet? It's the white people and their systemic power. They took it out to try to trick Low T. But for some reason, he responded and said, and history does matter. I don't know why. I never said history doesn't matter. I actually said you should do some reading on the history of race. So obviously, I think it matters. Obviously, I think it's deep state changing Tom's posts in real time. Yeah. So he said, white isn't a race, dude. White is category that the U.S. uses to exclude people because of how they look. It's meaningless. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but race is also a category, and it does exclude people. Just in general, like, technically, you can't have a category without discrimination. It is not a category if it does not discriminate in some way, shape, or form. If you say all things are in this box, all things are in this area, it cannot be a category because it is all things. You're not separating it from something else. You are not distinguishing it from other things. In order for something to be a category, it must discriminate from others. It must separate itself from others. So here he says, white isn't a race, dude. White is a category that the U.S. uses to exclude people because of how they look. It's meaningless, right? So, I suppose if I asked him, does black exclude people? He would probably say no, right? He would probably say no. Actually, all people are black. Everybody is black. We are all black, right? That's what he would say, right? So yeah, obviously, any race excludes other races. So he literally just described a race here. That's all he did. He described a race. Now, whether or not, and he made the worst argument, okay, to say white is a category that the U.S. uses to exclude people because of how they look. This is not the right argument. What he should have said is white is the default. It is someone without race. It is somebody who does not have race. Do we call them people of non-color? No, we call them people of color because that means they are not white. Anyone who is not a person of color is white. Why do we distinguish a person of color? To let us know that they are not one of us, that they are not white. This is how we use this language. This is whiteness, right? This would have been a much better freaking argument. Now, he couldn't have typed all of that, and especially he wouldn't have had such amazing language like I do. I have all the best words.
I know words. I have the best words.
But he could have at least said, white isn't a race, dude. White is the default. It is the one without race. Now, is that true? No, of course not. This is something that people make up. People like to make up their own definitions, especially on the left. They like to make up new definitions because the current definitions don't fit the narrative that they want. But if we define race, it's going to say no, not that kind of race. A strong or compete with another, move or progress. No, that's not it. I mean, I guess we could do the science one. For race, it says biology, a population with a species that is distinct in some way. What? They have to be distinct in some way? Wait a second. But Low T says that we're not a race because we exclude people. Yet, race, in order for it to be a race, it has to be distinct in some way. I'm sure there's some deeper meaning there. I'm sure he really knows what he's talking about, and I just don't understand words, is what it is. That's all it is. I need Low T to come teach me words. He said white isn't a race, dude. White is a category that the U.S. uses to exclude people because of how they look. It's meaningless. So I said, damn, I'm too late. You're already brain dead. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. No expert in these fields would tell you any of that. Only propagandists speaking out of turn. Now, when I say they wouldn't tell you any of that, I'm just talking about the fact that white isn't a race. Nobody would say white isn't a race. Only propagandists speaking out of turn, meaning people who aren't like actual experts in the fields, meaning they're not like linguists or they're not scientists or they're just propagandists. They're people who make this stuff up because they want to rile up lefties and feed them misinformation to fearmonger. A new definition for tomfoolery. A. Conservative / sock dem streamer who believes his takes are the best, even though a lot of times they are not, usually wears a hat. That's a good definition. So I said, damn, I'm too late. You're already brain dead. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. No expert in these fields will tell you any of that. Only propagandists speaking out of turn. It's some bell curve crap. I'd be happy to explain it to you sometime. I'd be happy to explain to you sometime how these terms are understood in reality. Now, the reason that I added reality or in reality to the end of that tweet is because I don't think he exists in reality. I was going to go as long as I could without blinking, but honestly, right now, I feel like I could go the rest of the night without blinking, so I'm just going to go ahead and pack it in. He said, experts in don't even use race. Experts in what? He said, experts in don't even use race. They use Klein's, dude. Okay, so he's talking about in science. I freaking crap, dude. Like, we're not talking about science. Obviously, when we're talking about race and the way that we're talking about it, we're talking about social constructs. Also, the science doesn't really, like, unless it's a scientific term, science doesn't decide what a word means, especially a socially constructed term like race. They wouldn't decide what that means. Science doesn't decide definitions. We decide definitions. Science can tell us about these things, unless it's a scientific word. Scientific words, they will decide the definitions for those things all day, baby. Let's go. But race is not one of them. No, I think they meant experts in donut baking. Oh, yeah. Experts in donuts even use race. That's true. So, yeah, he said they use Klein's, dude. I'm not brain dead. You just want to ignore history. Why again? Why again? Why? Why again? Why? Why is he again saying that I want to ignore history? The person who is ignoring history, the person who I'm telling to read some history, is telling me that I want to ignore history. Let's play a game. Ladies and gentlemen, we got another round. Can you find where I said ignore history? Anybody? Anybody, anywhere, let's go. Where is it? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you've run out of time. Seems as though I didn't say it. So after he said that he's not brain dead, which is good to know, and that I want to ignore history again, he said it's so funny how people like you will call Uncle Tom a slur but never seem to mention terms like democratic plantation. Anybody want to take a stab at this one? Again, he's saying something else that I didn't say, acting as though I said something that I didn't say. This is getting really frustrating at this point. I can't tell you, like, I am insanely busy at work right now, right? I'm very busy, but I have like 30 seconds every like 20 to 30 minutes where I'm able to just stop for a minute, chill, and then get back to it, right? And in those 30 seconds, I would check and I'd be like, how long does he sit there and think? Like, I literally, I imagine him sitting there like, oh man, let's see, what's something else he didn't say? Okay, yeah, let's put that in there. Tom said history is not the only thing to consider, and they got angry and want to make it sound like Tom doesn't care about it at all, even though he's the one who brought it up. Yes, exactly. Uru. They are just trapped in a spiral of believing what their anger told them. Happens on social media a lot. At this point, I'm really getting pissed off. Like, truly, I'm getting very pissed off. I don't know what else he's going to come up with next to say, this is also something that you're wrong about that you didn't say. I have absolutely no clue. I don't know what he's going to say. And I'm like actually like kind of freaking out. Like, I'm like thinking like, wow, like I've never dealt with something like this with anyone else but Sassafras before. So I said, first off, we're not talking about science. Second, you don't know what a racial slur is either. You know, Google can help you with this. Third, I do use history. I literally asked you to read some history on race. Are all of you guys so bad at this? You can't even disagree correctly. Okay? So, I posted that. I sat there for a minute and thought about it. And then I went and clicked on his name. I sent him a DM. And then I blocked him. And so in order for me to take you guys over these tweets and on this journey tonight, I did unblock him momentarily so that we could go through the context of this conversation. I think the count is what, at like 5 5 or 6 chat, or 5, yeah, like 5 or 6 times that they misrepresented me or argued against something that I never said. And I don't know Low T well enough. He seems like a cool kid. He's young. He's gonna buy into like the more radical and extreme beliefs. That's common for people around his age. I don't hold it against him. So I sent him a message and said, hey, I'm willing to have a conversation with you anytime, man. You want to come on the show or you want to talk in private? I'd be willing to talk to you. If you want me to bring other linguists so that you understand that, like, I do know what I'm talking about, because for some reason you don't seem to trust me when it comes to these things, that'd be fine. I'll bring other linguists. If you want me to bring CRT teachers, I could bring CRT teachers. I can bring black ones. I can bring white ones. I can bring all sorts of people who teach CRT if you want me to bring a CRT teacher. If you want me to bring a history teacher, I will bring you a history teacher. And we can go over this with a history teacher. I told him, I just said, what? If you want me to bring experts, I will bring any experts that you want. And we can have this conversation in public or in private. But you continuously misrepresent me and change my argument to argue against something that I didn't say. This is something that I can't just allow to continue while I'm not able to focus on my phone. I can't allow somebody to keep saying things against me that I never said, or acting as though they're arguing against me. I could be gone for like another 2 hours before I get back to my phone, and all of a sudden he's got a freaking post on there that's like, but Tom, you're wrong, man. You can't have sex with 8-year-old boys. I don't know what all he's gonna say. I don't know what all he's gonna add to this freaking argument that wasn't in the argument. I don't know what all is going to be on there. So I just went ahead and blocked him. And I sent him a message and told him, hey, I'm gonna block you. I feel like it's getting to the point of some irresponsible platforming when I'm away from my phone, and every time you argue against me, you argue against something that I never said in positions that I don't hold. And I don't feel like I can continue to have this conversation with you. So I am going to block you, but I am willing to have this conversation at any time. And it's not as though like I don't have conversations with people who are reactionary like this guy. Like we have very far right people on, we have very far left people on. We talk to these people on a fairly consistent basis. But when you are so dishonest that you're not actually willing to engage with anything that I'm saying, yeah, I'm going to draw the line there. I'm going to draw the line there, and I'm going to make sure that I get rid of that. Because if somebody's just scrolling by, right? Someone like because of the videos that were sent to my bosses of me, my bosses know of my show. They watch my shows sometimes. They watch, they look at my Twitter sometimes, okay? If my bosses are all of a sudden scrolling through and they just see something that's like, but Tom, you're wrong. You can't have sex with 8-year-olds. Like, you know. it seemed to be getting weirder and more extreme. And so that's the decision that I made.